Today's Toy Spot, we're having a look at the Mattel DC Comics Unlimited Aquaman. Aquaman comes to us packaged in the standard now DC Comics Unlimited. Actually, really standard DC Universe packaging, which seems to carry over through all the lines now. It really all things considered doesn't bother me all that much. On the side, we've got a picture of Aquaman with trident in hand, pursued perhaps by an array of piranhas. I don't know. Certainly on the back of the package, that same image is featured. Real name, Arthur Curry, or Orn. Occupation, former monarch. Location, Poseidonus. I had a tough time saying that. Amnesty Bay. Powers, abilities, and skills. Breeds underwater. Great strength. Communicates with undersea animals. Says, found abandoned Prince Orn of Atlantis was raised in the way of the surface world and made the namesake of lighthouse keeper Arthur Curry. But in the water where young Arthur truly thrived in adulthood... Hold on a second, let me back that up. But in the water was where young Arthur truly thrived, period. In adulthood, there you go, he took the name Aquaman and used his aquatic abilities to patrol the seven seas. The Aquatic Avengers' renown soon earned him a place among the newly assembled Justice League of America. Other figures you can pick up are Wonder Woman as well as Darkseid. I'm assuming that all three figures are depicted from the new pages of New 52. Although really it doesn't indicate anywhere that Aquaman here is New 52, but I guess really they're not specifying it anymore. New 52 is pretty much regular run-of-the-mill now. But anyways, Spot will definitely have the review of Darkseid heading your way as well. What I am going to do, though, is take a break. I'm going to get this opened up. And when we come back, we're going to get a better look at the new Aquaman. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Spot has to apologize because the one thing I didn't have prepped for this review was actually the comparison between this Aquaman and the original Aquaman that was released through the DC Universe Collect and Connect series. The figure itself I've got packaged away, so when I eventually get that figure out and about, certainly a comparison will occur. As for the accessories that come with Aquaman, you get yourself the trident, and actually the trident itself is really good. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any paint to speak of. It looks like it relies solely on the off-gold colored plastic that it was forged in. I'm not sure if I like the multi-tipped trident, whether I just prefer like a three-pronged trident, but still, it's not a bad representation of the trident, and at least Aquaman comes with it, which is actually one thing that's sometimes omitted from a lot of the DC figures. They just don't come with accessories. Moving that aside and actually picking up Aquaman here, Aquaman actually is a pretty good figure. Now again, trying to depict whether it's been taken from the New 52, that aside, his face is actually pretty good. I like at about here, give or take at about there. Something goes a little weird when he gets down to his lower half. I mean, really, from the side, his mouth actually doesn't look too bad, but from the front, his mouth looks off. It looks like he's eating something he doesn't like and is trying to proceed to hide it from whoever is asking him if he's enjoying his meal. It's a little too full, I think, in the lower portion of that mouth. On the side, though, it's not so bad. Speaking of on the side, though, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. There seems a very predominant, can you see that right there? A very predominant line that is going all the way up the side of the figure's head, all the way along the top, and all the way down the other side as well. It's almost as if they've used the back part of the figure's head, and they've merely retooled a new front face of Aquaman. Having said that, I'm not really quite sure if that is the case, what that back part of the hair is used from. I'm really hoping they're not getting now to the point where they're just sculpting front pieces of faces and then sticking them on to the back of an already existing head. The hair is done nice, and it blends itself if this turns out to be a front new piece. Still makes no sense to me. Aquaman has his common scaled upper torso, which I'm going to assume is a new sculpt, at least from the scale end of it. Perhaps, another figure that Spot really did not have at the time that I'm reviewing, is perhaps he also shares the same upper torso as that of Copperhead. Seems to me like Spot's got himself a bit of a mystery to solve. Something seems also a little off, and really Spot apologized in advance that I'm really nitpicking the figure, but it also seems like something's off with his arms. I don't really know what's going on with his arms, but it seems like his shoulders are all right. But then when you get to the bicep area, it looks like his arm is disjointed from itself. Like it seems like the peg that connects the bicep should really have been, even if you move the arm, it doesn't seem to change it. It seems like that peg should have been a little further down. It seems like his bicep is floating off to the edge of his shoulder. This one doesn't look too bad. This one actually looks like it's in the right spot. This one looks like it's off. I'm really not sure why. Maybe it's pegged in all the way. Aquaman's also got his two pointed gloves. His new Aquaman logoed belt in gold, which is nice. That's a nice touch. And then it looks like standard fare from the lower torso down. I've really got a big problem with this one foot. It's extremely loose. This foot, not so bad. It's not so bad at all. Just as a comparison, the one thing at least Spot did have prepared at the time that I had this review, it just so happened I still had them on my shelf. Get him to stand properly. I'll reach off camera, and I'm going to bring in his colleagues. I got here Superman, assuming again from the New 52, and I've also got New 52 Batman, all of which from the DC Universe lines, respectively, of course, respectively. So you can see that they all kind of go well together. Aquaman looks like he is slightly taller. In fact, from a side-to-side stance, it does look like Aquaman's just a little bit taller, and that might be to the additional torso that they've given him. Also, just as a side note, okay, good. He's not using the same back of the head as Batman, as Superman. I'm really curious as to what's going on with his face. In the way of his articulation, it would be the same as all other DC Universe figures. Aquaman does have a rotational point in his head, which also allows the head normally to move up and down, although it really doesn't move much at all on this figure. The shoulders still have a swivel out, a swivel back and forth. A rotation in the bicep, a bend in the elbow, and rotation in the hand. He has the upper torso bend and swivel in the waist. Then when he gets to his legs still have that forward and back out. You can't move his leg, unfortunately, too much forward because his belt seems to obstruct any sort of movement beyond that point. He still, however, has this swivel in the thigh, bend at the knee, and finally a hinge at the very loose foot on this Aquaman. I suppose the beauty of getting an Aquaman is now, at least with getting him released now, is if you didn't get a chance to get the initial Aquaman, which Spot, again, will dig out of his archives and try to do a comparison for you guys one of these days. But at least if you didn't get the Aquaman the first time around, you at least have an Aquaman released now. Now, granted, Aquaman isn't the hardest of DC Universe figures to find. Of course, if you didn't get him with... If you didn't get him initially single-carded, he was also released with the Masters of the Universe Merman, so you can do it either or. Or if you really want not as good of as a runner-up, I mean, there's also the, the Ocean Master Aquaman that was part of the DC Universe, which I think was the Atom Smasher wave, which Spot might be incorrect with. I don't think this figure is as good as the original Aquaman. That Aquaman still by far is my favorite. The head is acceptable, even though I find, I don't know, even like looking at Superman, they have some real knack for giving male figures really long, predominant chins. And Aquaman kind of is guilty of that as well. It looks like he's got something in his mouth. He's just, or he's holding his breath, which would be somewhat ironic being that he's Aquaman and all. This Aquaman, I'm gonna only give him a 7. I think I gave the original Aquaman a lot higher, and still, I think he warrants that rating. This Aquaman's good, but it's just not as good. Today's toy spot, so I was going to say collectible spot. Today's toy spot, we're having a look at the DC Comics Unlimited Aquaman. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.